everybody. Welcome to this first episode of Vet It with Jackie Reed. I am Jackie Reed, and we live in a time, everybody, where stories move at the speed of social media. Headlines dominate our feeds in one day, and by the next week, or sometimes even the next day, we have moved on to the next thing. But for the families at the center of those stories, life does not move on. Today, many Americans are closely following the disappearance and investigation surrounding Nolan Wells. His story has captured national attention and prompted difficult conversations about missing persons, public awareness, and the search for answers. For many families, however, those conversations never really ended. Nearly 5 years ago, another young Black man disappeared. His name was Jelani Day. He was a graduate student, a son, a brother, and a young man with dreams of becoming a doctor. Weeks after his disappearance, his body was found. His death raised countless questions, and while investigations have continued, his family says they are still searching for answers and accountability. And today, we are honored to be joined by the woman who has carried this fight every single day since. She has transformed unimaginable grief into advocacy, speaking not only for her son, but for families across this country whose loved ones have disappeared and whose stories deserve to be remembered. Please welcome Carmen Bolden Day. Hi, Carmen. Hey, Carmen.
Hi, Jackie. Thanks for having me here today.
Thanks for being here. We met, I think, a couple of months ago. Time just gets away from me sometimes. We met and at an event that the Black and Missing Foundation was doing, and you were one of the featured speakers sharing your story about Jelani. And then you and I had an opportunity to talk. And we talked about so many things. And I want you to retell a lot of what you told me for this audience here today. But where I want to start, Carmen, is just giving people an opportunity to know your son, right? Before he went missing, before he became a headline in such a negative way. Tell me, all about Jelani, favorite color, as much as you can. And I know this is difficult for you. So at any time, if there's a question that I ask that is too painful for you to answer or you want to move on, please do not hesitate to let me know that.
No problem. Well, Jelani was, he is my fourth child. Jelani was the most busiest of all five of my children. Jelani kept me busy. He was always doing something. Since he was little, Jelani was just a busy little baby. I mean, sometimes people call their kids bad. That's a title that you put on them, right? I wouldn't put that title on my kids, though. So when somebody said, like, he's bad, no, he's not bad. He's busy. So that's what Jelani was. Jelani was the kid in his class that would get all his work done first and not just get it done and it's incorrectly done, and get it done and it's right. And then just be sitting there messing with other kids, doing things he had no business doing. He was just that little busy child. As he continued to grow up, he became a protector of people, while he was in, my kids attended a magnet school. And during that time, Jelani, as Jelani grew up, Jelani was very outspoken. I mean, I allowed them the opportunity to, don't get me twisted, we didn't do the talking back, but I gave them the opportunity to express themselves, to talk to me and everything, right? As Jelani was growing up in school, this is what he practiced, what he was taught at home. He always wanted to be heard. If he was not in the wrong, or if somebody couldn't articulate and speak for themselves and he seen something being done wrong, Jelani wanted to speak up for them. And in this process, when he was in elementary school, he met a young man by the name of Paul. Paul had disabilities, and Paul used to get teased, and Paul couldn't talk, would not speak up for himself. Jelani just took a liking to Paul, and Jelani used to always take up for him, because Paul was getting picked on or whatever. And as Jelani grew up and continued his education, went off to college, he told me that he wanted to study speech pathology because he wanted to help people be able to articulate their feelings and talk for themselves, because he remembered how Paul could not. He remembers how also his older two brothers, they used to attend speech classes when they were in elementary school. And Jelani never had to attend speech class. Jelani could talk well. He didn't have what I would call a lisp like his brothers did. So Jelani always said he would tease his brothers that he could speak better than them. But, he wanted to do this so that he could help others. So as he went off to school, Jelani is just a people person, always making friends, always involved in things. He joined a lot of different organizations. And he was always just close to me. I called Jelani my little bill collector because Jelani called me all the time. And if I didn't answer my phone, Jelani gonna call me back to back. I don't care if I send him a text and say, I'll call you back. If I didn't call him back within what he thought was the amount of time that I should, which was probably only about a minute or two, he's going to call me back to back to back until I answer the phone. If I send him a text and say, Jelani, stop calling me, he would say, Mama, you ain't doing nothing, so answer the phone. That was my bill collector. That's how Jelani did me. He was just he was just lovable. Like I said, very outspoken, very smart, loved to laugh, loved to dance, loved to play around all the time. He was the one that, how they say grandma is the glue to your family or whatever. Mm-hmm. Jelani is the glue. He was the glue for my children and myself and my husband and my family. I believe that I would get on one of his brothers or one of his siblings about something and say they are all sitting in there and they're quiet. Jelani's going to break the ice. He's going to be the first one to crack a joke about him, to crack a joke about me, to say Mama did this or you did that, to make something funny. That was just Jelani. He was just lovable, and I just miss my child so very much. Miss him.
And when you and I met, it was before the Nolan Wells case. But when that story started making headlines, I immediately thought about you, right? Because of what those parents are going through. There are similarities, right? It's two very separate cases, but I would imagine there are similarities. Well, no, I know that there are similarities, and you and I talked about that. And I want to get into that in a moment, but first I want to talk about your experience. How did you know? Who notified you, Carmen, that something was going on with Jelani? Because he was away at graduate school.
He was attending school in Bloomington, Illinois. I was in Belleville, Illinois, because that's where I had accepted a position and I was working down there. And me and Jelani, I was at work on that Monday. This was, like I said, this is in August. That Monday, we were normally every other year, my family plans a trip to go out of town or we go somewhere for Thanksgiving. On that particular Monday, my aunt was texting me saying Jelani hasn't paid. She still needed Jelani's portion of his money and all this kind of stuff. And me and Jelani were on the phone. He told me, Mama, I'm going to pay it, because I had told Jelani, you're going to pay your stuff because I'm always paying his stuff. And he called me. We were talking about that. He got off the phone with me. He told me he went to go take care of it. He put money in my account. He called me back just to let me know that he was back at home. And then I'm telling him I'm working. He was like, Mama, you ain't even working. So he wanted me to stay on the phone with him.
Right.
He's watching TV and I'm working. And I said, Jelani, you ain't even saying nothing.
Uh-oh, I think you hit the mute button.
It was like, Jelani, I just accidentally hit that. I'm sorry. I said, Jelani, you're not even talking to me. And he was like, well, Mama, you ain't even doing nothing. So we stayed on the phone. He kept telling me about the shows that he was watching. He was talking about how excited he was because he was getting ready to do his first clinical. and he was going to be working with a patient. And he was so excited about doing that. And he was telling me he had to prepare and get his notes in for that. We was just talking about this trip. We was talking about his birthday. We was talking about because he had just came back from he went to Texas and he had went to Alabama. And he was telling me about he was doing this clothing line with one of his friends, telling me about they was going to do this party and how he wanted me to sponsor the party. And I'm like, Jelani, I'm not sponsoring nothing else. So he was like, okay, Mom, we'll talk about it later. You know, he was just doing all these things and talking to me. I mean, he called me all day long. I would get off the phone with him. He called me back. Just talking about nothing. And so that weekend, I was supposed to be going out of town to Florida because one of my friends was turning 50 that weekend. And I was telling him about it, and he talked about me, telling me about what I shouldn't be wearing and all this kind of stuff. So we just talked all day long. And I remember the last phone call because I worked over that evening. That's when we were working a lot of overtime after COVID and everything. Mm-hmm. And I got home that night and I was tired, and he called me, and he wanted the password to my cable. And I gave it to him. I'm like, Jelani, y'all gonna start paying this cable bill. He was like, Mom, okay. And, you know, we were just talking, and he said, okay, Mom, I didn't want anything. I just wanted to hear your voice. And that was the last thing that I heard from him. So like I said, I talked to him so much on that Monday so that when Tuesday came, it didn't even bother me, or I didn't even think about that I hadn't spoken to him. Then Wednesday, I got off of work and was at the hair salon getting my hair done. And my oldest son called me and he said, Mama, have you talked to Jelani? And I was like, yeah. And DeAndre said, well, the police are here. They're saying they're checking on Jelani. And I said, checking on Jelani for what? I said, DeAndre, hold on. So I hung up from DeAndre and I called Jelani's phone. And his phone just went straight to voicemail. So I'm thinking that he might have had his phone on Do Not Disturb. So I text him. And I'm like, Jelani, call me ASAP. And normally when he does something like that, put his phone on do not disturb, and I call him or I text him, Jelani calls me back immediately. And that day he did not. And that's when I started worrying because it's out of his character. I mean, he never waits a long period. He never waits like 5 or 10 minutes because he knows I'm fussing at him. So he doesn't want to hear my mouth. So he calls me back, but this night he did not. So I called DeAndre back, and DeAndre's telling me that the police are saying that they're doing a wellness check on him. And I'm like, why? Why are they doing a wellness check on him? And so the police tell DeAndre that they got a call from his school, and that we will probably need to check and see where Jelani was and everything. So DeAndre had called his dad, and at the time, Jelani's dad, he was sick. He had cancer, and Jelani and my other 2 sons had got tested because they needed he needed a I forget what you call it, but Jelani and Save and DeAndre got tested, and Jelani was his closest match. And when DeAndre called him that night, even though his dad wasn't feeling good, he got up, and DeAndre got up, and they drove to Bloomington because I was in Belleville. I was like 3 hours away from Bloomington. They're in Danville, and they got up and they went to Bloomington, and they're looking for Jelani. And DeAndre went to Jelani's apartment. We called the police, and the police is telling me that they don't see his car. Of course, they couldn't get into his apartment. He wasn't there. They were contacting the leasing agency of the apartment to try to get in. And so in the meantime, I'm telling them I want to file a missing persons report because by this time it's 10 o'clock at night. When DeAndre called me, it was a little bit after 5, 6 in the evening. So it's about 10 o'clock at night. And this is too long for me not to have heard from Jelani because like I'm telling you, our normalcy is that he would contact me. He would not leave me waiting for him like that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm talking to the police. I'm telling them that I need to file a missing person report. And he told me that they don't do that. You have to wait a certain amount of time. And I'm like, well, something is wrong with my child. We need to file this report. And he tells me that he was going to file the report, but still I needed to wait. So he told me in the meantime they were going to be checking hospitals and things like that. So I couldn't wait on them to do that. So DeAndre and myself and his dad, now his siblings, know we are calling hospitals, we're calling police stations. We're just doing anything trying to be proactive, because now this is totally out of Jelani's character to do this. And I just didn't feel right about it. And I kept telling him I didn't feel right. And so my daughter calls me, Zaina, Jelani's youngest sister. She calls me and she tells me that one of her friends had called her and said that some young lady that went to school with Jelani on campus said, we need to get in contact with Jelani's family because Jelani is missing and that his mom needs to check on him. So I told Zaina, call your friend back and get that girl's information so I can call her. Because according to Zaina, the girl that called her friend, this girl was crying. She was really upset because Jelani was missing. I'm like, well, how does she know Jelani? So I need to know all these questions, right? I had all these questions in my head. So in the meantime, while DeAndre and them are searching, I'm trying to get in contact with this other young lady. So I call her. I do get in contact with her. And I ask her, like, what's your relationship to him? I'm asking her about Jelani. She tells me that Jelani had been somebody that she met during classes. They used to work together in study groups, or, how they partner people up when they're doing work in college or whatever. And she said that she was sick that day, but Jelani didn't show up for class. I asked her, how did she know? She said that her roommate came back and told her, and that the clinical director was concerned. And so she had called the campus police. And I'm like, so how many classes did Jelani miss? And she said, he only missed today. So now I'm very, very concerned because this doesn't make sense to me. You crying, this lady is calling the campus police and you wasn't even in class. So what's going on, So I'm really, in the back of my mind, these things are what's on my mind, but I'm really just trying to be just as nice as I can be because I need their help. And I don't know what the connection is or if there is involvement, but I don't want to scare anybody off. And she seemed like she wanted to be very cooperative and she wanted to get me in contact with the clinical director. And I told her, give her my phone number, call me. And she did. She ended up, I was talking to this girl all through the night. The next morning, I got up early in the morning because I was going to get on the road. They didn't want me to get on the road that night. My mom didn't want me to get on the road that night. I got up the next morning. Soon as the bank opened, I called the bank, the credit union, to see if Jelani's card had been used. And they told me that it had been used at Starbucks that morning, on that Tuesday morning at 5-something in the morning. So I started Googling the Starbucks in that area, trying to find out what Starbucks it was. And finally, I got in contact with Kara Baster, who was the clinical director that reported Jelani missing. Me and her on the phone, and she's telling me that her and Jelani had something. Jelani had something to do for her, and that they had been texting. And please keep in mind that during this time, even though she's telling me all of this, there are so many questions I didn't ask, so many things that I didn't do because my focus wasn't on her or anybody else. My focus was on finding Jelani, because now it's the next morning and I still haven't heard from him. And she asked me, had I talked to the police, and I told her that I had. I told her about the police officer that had been in contact with me the night before. And I told her how I needed to call the police station because I still need to file a missing persons report. And she told me to hold on, that she had a friend in the police department and she was going to get me a detective assigned to the case. So all I'm thinking is, thank you, God. You're connected, because I'm praying, God, connect me to the right people that can help me. So she did that. And in turn, I'm asking her about the Starbucks. I'm asking her about Starbucks because the young lady that I spoke to the night before had told me there was a Starbucks on campus. And she told me that there was 2 other Starbucks. I asked her about how close it was because Jelani lived off campus. Me and his dad had got him an apartment off campus. And so there was a Starbucks close to where he lived. And I was trying to determine which Starbucks he had went to. So I asked Kara if she could go to the Starbucks that was on campus and she could see if Jelani had been there for me. Because again, I haven't gotten on the road yet. I'm still in Belleville. I'm about to get on the road to come there. And I'm like, when I get there, can I meet up with you? And she told me that I could. Well, in the meantime, she did whatever she did. She went to Starbucks. And I also told her when she calls me back, she tells me that she had went to Starbucks. And I said that, well, Jelani, because I had already advised her that Jelani had used his credit card there. He had bought something that morning. And she said, I said, did you ask him if there was any video? And she told me that the police already had the video. And at the time, I didn't think about it because I'm like, how would the police have the video? Because I've never told the police that Jelani went to Starbucks because I hadn't even talked to the police yet. The only person that knew that Jelani was at Starbucks was me and my mom and now her and the young lady that I've spoken to and my kids, my family. I hadn't told the police yet. But she told me that the police had the video, that Jelani had been at that Starbucks. They had already collected the video. I get there to Bloomington that afternoon. I go to the Starbucks because I'm looking around and I'm asking people, do you remember seeing him? Showing a picture of Jelani. Went to her office. And when I get to her office, she's sitting down at her desk and I sit in this chair across from her. And she tells me how she has went to the IT tech and she has a digital footprint of everything Jelani did on the morning that he was on campus. Jelani arrived on campus at 6:50. He swiped his card, went into some computer room, was on a computer. He swiped his card, went somewhere else. He went to the Starbucks. He's dressed because he's ready for clinicals, but he was dressed because he was supposed to meet her that morning. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind, while I'm sitting there with her, I'm not asking her questions about her. She only told me Jelani was supposed to do something for her. And I regret to this day that I never asked her on that day, what was it that he was supposed to do for you? She scammed her phone in front of my face like this. And she goes, we were texting. Never did I take her phone and look at the text messages. I just didn't do a lot of stuff that day because I wasn't thinking. All I was thinking about was Jelani.
You were doing the best you could as a mom in that situation. So I just hate to hear you second guessing yourself. You were doing what so many people would have done. You know what I mean? So I'm sorry. I just had to say that you were doing the best you could in that moment. I can't even imagine.
Well, Jackie, the reason that I say this is because the reason that I say this is because all of my kids have attended college. All of them. I had 4 kids that had graduated from college. I had a 5th one that was still in college. And all of them, especially Jelani, I know have skipped classes, have missed classes in college. And not one time have any of those instructors or those clinical directors or anybody reported them missing because they missed one class. So when I thought back on it, I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't do the right thing, because what if during that time I would have did the right thing or said the right thing or asked the right question, and I could have found out more in that moment, right?
Yeah, but that's what the police are for, right? That's why there are professional investigators to do that, right? How
Well,
would you know to
that's what you
do
would
that?
think.
Yeah. Did the police
Yeah,
ever
that's what you would
question
think.
this? I know we've talked about this, but I just want to talk as much as you're comfortable with talking about this professor or clinical instructor or whatever this woman was. Did police circle once you realize, hey, I should have asked this, or maybe did the police ever circle back? Was she ever a suspect?
Well, nobody has ever been a suspect,
Okay.
according to the police. They did say that they questioned her, but then they told me they didn't suspect her of anything because she showed them the text messages between her and Jelani, and she only did this, whatever she did, out of concern. Like I said, keep in mind, she was the one that connected me to the police department. I had a police detective by that Thursday afternoon, or no, that Thursday morning. There was a detective assigned to me because of whatever she did and whoever she talked to. I didn't, it wasn't because I was displeasing mother. This lady had a connection in the police department. So this is the same police department that then goes back and questions her and investigates her and then clears her. So you got to think about the relationship there too.
Right. Right.
So I was assigned a police detective on that Thursday morning. That Thursday afternoon, unbeknownst to me, Jelani's car was found 63 miles away behind a YMCA in a town called Peru, Illinois, with the license plates removed. That detective called me at 4:30 that afternoon. I will never forget, I was leaving to go meet my other children at my son's apartment. And he said, Carmen, does Jelani know anybody in Peru? And Jackie, the only Peru that I knew about was the one that was in another country.
Right.
I never knew there was a Peru, Illinois. Had never heard of Peru, Illinois, in nothing. So I questioned him about that. Then he told me that Peru, and when he described the location of Peru, he gave me the distances was from Chicago. So I'm thinking it was north of where we were. He didn't tell me that this was a small white town. He didn't tell me anything. He just kept asking me questions. And I said, I'm going to meet with my other children right now. He said, do you think that somebody in Jelani's fraternity is from Peru? And I said, I don't know. Let me go. And I asked my sons. Mm-hmm. I get to there where my sons are. And DeAndre or Save, one of them, they Google it. Like, Mama, Peru this is a white town. He's like, Jelani don't know nobody there. And Save and them were like, no, Mom, we don't have any. They don't know of anybody or any reason why Jelani would go to Peru. None of us do, right? I call the detective back. I tell him we don't have a clue as to why Jelani would be there, or why you would be asking me about this. Because at the time, he didn't even tell me that Jelani's car had been found. This was 4:30 in the afternoon. He just asked me about Peru, asked me would we have any connections to it. I had to call him back and tell him no. When I asked him why he was asking me those things, he never told me. It wasn't until about 9 o'clock that night, 9:30, I get a text from Kara Baster, who sends me a news article. And Kara Baster, again, is the clinical director, who sends me a news article that's been on the internet saying that the car of the missing ISU student was found in Peru, Illinois. So I read the article. I am now calling the police department in Peru because I called the detective that was assigned to me. His name was Paul Jones. I called him, no answer. So I called the police department. And I'm speaking to one of the operators or somebody at the police department. I tell her who I am, and I tell her that I need to speak to a policeman or whoever. I asked for the man's name that's listed in the article, and she told me that he was gone home for the evening. And I said, well, I need to speak to someone because that car that was found, that's my son's car. She puts me on hold.
Okay, I'm sorry. So you found out about this from a news article, not the police, and it's printed, like it's been reported.
It's printed.
It's a full-on article before you even.
It's a full-on article. Not even, and not only is it a full-on article, but there was a picture of the outside, the police with the tape around wherever they were looking at, and people are standing out there. This is in the article that I'm reading, and nobody notified me. And it was stated that this car was found at 4 that afternoon, and this man was on the phone with me at 4:30, and nothing was ever said to me. Nothing. So
did they ever explain that to you? Did they ever give you any explanation as to why they were keeping you in the dark when they found your son's car, which is such a key?
Well, let me tell you what he told me, because I was very upset that night.
Yeah.
I read the article. I'm calling, like I said, when I called the Peru Police Department, the girl put me on hold. And then when she came back, she told me that there was no police available and that I would have to call back the next morning. I gave her some choice words, and I was telling her, I need you to put somebody on the phone. She hung up on me. Me and my kids, we get in the cars and we are headed to Peru. As I'm at a gas station gassing up, that's when Paul Jones, the detective, called me. And he said, Carmen, I have some news for you. And he said, we found Jelani's car. And I was like, I know you did. He said, how do you know? I said, it's on the effing internet. Then I tell him, I said, why didn't you tell me that you found his car? You just talked to me at 4:30. I said, it's saying that this was done at 4 p.m. this afternoon. And he told me that he was en route to the car when he called me. And he didn't call me because he wasn't 100% sure that it was his car. And I said, that's a bunch of BS, because this article was printed at the same time that you had me on the phone, and it says it's the car of the missing ISU student. So I'm telling him that I'm on my way. He said, you're on your way where? I said, I'm on my way to where you are. He said, Carmen, that's when he asked me, how do I even know where they are? I told him that he was at the YMCA in Peru, and he asked me, how did I know? And that's when I told him. And then he told me, it's 3 hours away from you. You're not going to get here till after midnight. I said, I don't care how far it is. I'm on my way. He said, well, when you get here, you cannot disturb anything. His car, he explained to me that his car was down a hill. He told me I couldn't go down the hill. And I told him that's fine. I wouldn't disturb anything. I just want to know, did you find Jelani? He told me no. I said, was there blood in his car? He said, we didn't see anything. I said, was anything disrupted in his car? He said that he couldn't tell that. He said, then he told me that they had conducted a search. He told me that there was dogs and other entities out there that were searching for Jelani. And I was so pissed, because at this time I'm like, and y'all did not call me? Why wouldn't you call me?
Right.
So I get off the phone with him. I'm so angry. We get there. And as we're riding into Peru, I was in that truck and we was going across a bridge entering into Peru. And my first thought was, God, don't let my son be in that water. And I will never forget when I said that. Carlos had told me, he's like, Carmen, don't think like that. So we get to where Jelani's car is. And I get out the car, and it's dark. We're in this parking lot, and I go, and I look, and Jelani's car is down this hill, and when they described it, they said it was in a wooded area. So when you hear that, you think in the woods, right? It is actually, there's a YMCA, another like health center, a parking lot, and there's just some trees a wooded area in between there that somebody went and parked this car down in between these trees. So it's not in the woods. It's in a residential area off of the highway. And while we're there, I'm like, how would they? Then they're telling me Jelani drove his car here and parked it in the woods. And I'm like, Jelani doesn't know anybody here, number one. Jelani would never drive here. And why would Jelani park his car in the woods and take his license plate off? Make it make sense. So they tell me that they don't know that now it's the Peru Police Department is involved. And there's a detective from Peru Police that is there as well with Paul Jones. His name is also Jones. His name, it escapes me, but his last name was Jones too. So I got two Detective Jones standing in this parking lot with me. And there was another female officer there. And they're explaining to me that Peru doesn't have the equipment or capability to process the car, check it for fingerprint and all that kind of stuff. So they skip past the protocol, and Peru has agreed to allow Bloomington to take Jelani's car. So what they're doing right now, they're waiting on a tow truck to come and get Jelani's car. And so the tow truck doesn't come till like almost 3:00 in the morning. We stay the entire time. My children are talking to the police. We are telling them, my kids are telling them any and everything that they could possibly think of because we want to find Jelani. I asked them, did they check the water? And the police detective told me that night, he said, Carmen, we don't even believe that Jelani's here. And I said, why not? He said, we just think somebody just brought his car here and stuffed his car here. But that's not what you just said to me. They had, like I said, in my head, I'm thinking this, but I'm trying not to be the combative Black woman because, again, I don't want them not to help me. So I'm listening, and all I can remember, Jackie, was sitting on that ground, watching my kids talk to the police officers, watching them take pictures. I couldn't do nothing because I'm just thinking, where is Jelani? Like, why would he be here? And so the tow truck finally comes, and they pull the car up. And when they pull the car up, they put it on the tow bed, and they tell me I can't touch the car. So I'm not touching the car, but I'm walking around the car. And I noticed on the back of the trunk, on the back of the fender of the car, there were some red dots. And I said, is that blood? And they told me that it wasn't blood. And I asked them how did they know? And they never really explained that to me. They just told me that it wasn't blood. I remember Jelani's suitcase still being in the back seat. His suitcase was in the back seat behind the driver's side, and his stuff was just still in the car. And they took the car. They told me, so this is Thursday night, early Friday morning, go home. We are going to be searching for Jelani, is what they told me. And we will contact you tomorrow. So at this time, we're not finding his phone either, right? So they tell me that they are going to be searching for his phone and checking for the last pings and everything. The next morning, when I'm talking to Detective Jones, Paul Jones, because the other detective was named Brad Jones. Excuse me. I'm talking to the detective, and he says to me that they did Jelani's his phone last pinged near the dispensary. So that's when we found out Jelani was at a dispensary that morning after he left school. By this time, the school has they went back through and checked their camera. So Jelani's car was seen leaving the school. Jelani was seen walking across the campus. They That's when they saw the ping. They saw that he had been at a dispensary. They go to the dispensary. They confirmed that he had been at the dispensary. Then he tells me that his phone, Jelani gets back in his car. Because at this time I haven't seen the video. He tells me that he sees that Jelani got back in his car. He sits in his car, and it's 9:50, I believe, or 9:52 in the morning. Jelani turned off his phone and shut off all of his locations, because at that point, that's when everything goes dead. So
was there any explanation as to why he did that? And did you confirm that they weren't just telling, like they confirmed all of this?
number one, you could never confirm to me that Jelani shut off his phone. My son stayed on his phone. And also, Jelani knew how I was about them staying in contact with me. So he would not just turn off his phone like that, okay? Jelani didn't turn off his phone. Somebody was in that car with Jelani that made Jelani turn off his phone. Jelani would never just turn. Why would you go in there and just erase your locations to everything? For what? He ain't never did it a day before that. But all of a sudden on this day, he went to the dispensary and he leave out the dispensary, and now he want to turn off everything. It doesn't make sense, Jackie. My son did not do that willingly on his own by himself. He didn't. So they're giving me all of this. I'm not buying it. I'm not falling for it. And I'm telling them Jelani would not just do that. But that is what the police are saying to me. But they still haven't located his phone. So I find out that I have a friend that's on the board of Apple. And we are trying to get in contact with them because according to the police, they can't do anything because Apple has all these stringent rules and criteria of how you can get the phones and all this kind of stuff, that we got to file a motion with a judge and get something subpoenaed. So I'm trying to bypass all that. And so I ended up being able to talk to somebody that was like over some department at Apple that could help me and everything. So she was trying to give us all kinds of ways that we could locate Jelani's phone. But again, whoever did this to his phone, they knew what they were doing because they turned off everything even Apple could use to locate the phone. They knew what they were doing. So again, the phone is missing. Jelani is missing. His keys is missing. The only thing right now I have is his car. All I know that his car doesn't have a license plate on it. They called me that so that Friday, I didn't go anywhere. I trusted them to believe that they were out there searching for him. I'm trusting God that I'm going to find Jelani or that somebody's going to call me. And it was I'm talking back and forth to Paul Jones all day because, like I said, I wasn't trying to get in touch with Apple. DeAndre was buying all kinds of stuff, trying to find Jelani's phone. My kids are steady just doing all kinds of stuff. You know, they're calling his friends. We're doing a lot of stuff on our end, thinking that the police are doing things on their end, okay? And the police officer called me that Friday evening. It was 4:30. He said, Carmen, we've put in a subpoena to the judge. We haven't heard from him. He said, we're trying to get him to expedite it. And if I don't hear anything concerning Jelani's phone, I'll contact you on Monday. And I sat there for a minute. I said, Monday? Today is Friday. So between now and Monday, who's going to be looking for my baby? He told me that he wasn't, that they didn't have the manpower, and he didn't work on weekends. So I said, can I search for him? He said, where are you going to search at? I was like, I don't know. I'm going to go back to Peru. I'm going to go to where his apartment is. I'm going to look for him. And he said that I needed to call the police in Peru to see if I could do that. I I don't even remember if I called the Peru police, because all I remember is that I put a post on Facebook, on social media, and I asked anybody who could and will, could they join me and meet me in Peru, because I needed somebody to help me find Jelani. I had a company call me that they had some search dogs that they wanted to help us that day. And I showed up in Peru that next day on that Saturday morning. And when I tell you, Jackie, people showed up that I didn't even know. My family showed up. I didn't even know my brother was there. My brother lives in Vegas. He showed up. Jelani's line brothers showed up. His friends that live in Texas showed up. He had people from everywhere coming to help look for him. Kara Baster showed up that day. And it was on that day, my brother, he kept asking me questions because, like I said, I was like, Gary, don't do that. Like, they're trying to help us. But, I guess the focus was Jelani for me. My family, the focus for them was Jelani, but, their minds were clearer than mine. I didn't think about this at the time because I just didn't want them to scare people, because my brother he was on her, Jackie. I mean, he questioned her. And so whatever Gary said to her that day, because Gary asked a lot of questions, and he said her story was contradictory. And from that day going forward, she's not spoken to me anymore after that. I think people started questioning her outside of my family. They were looking at the background and her husband, and there were speculations going on about whatever her involvement was with Jelani. And she said that I was attacking her. I've never attacked her. I've never accused her, but her friends have sent me messages asking me to go public and say that she didn't have anything to do with Jelani's disappearance. And I told them, no, I would not. Because at that point, and at this point, everybody's a suspect.
Yeah. And
I'm not going to publicly say that you're not involved when I don't even know. I have no clue. According to you, you were the last one that spoke to my child. It was you that he was coming to see. And from there, I know nothing. I have not talked to my child since you last talked to him. Right. You were the last person to make contact with him. So why would I tell anybody to clear you? I can't do that. I won't do that. So until the police can make sure that you are not a suspect, until the evidence comes back and we can find out who did this to Jelani, makes you not a suspect, Carmen is never getting anywhere and saying that Kara Baster did not have anything to do with the disappearance and the death of Jelani Day, because Carmen doesn't know that. Right. I won't say that about anybody, nobody, because I don't know that. Yeah. Because I believe that whoever did this to Jelani knew them. Yeah. He knew them.
Did you ever find out Jackie, what this professor or clinical director, what did she ask him to do for her?
So what I found out was Jelani needed to take the second part of his TB test in order to do whatever he needed to do to be with the patients, okay? His patients. He had not completed that. And the only reason I found that out was afterwards. I started looking at different stuff. I was going through everything. I found I ended up finding an appointment thing that Jelani had called, because Jelani was on my insurance. And so he had made an appointment. He tried to get in at the clinic in Bloomington on campus, because you see him walking into that health clinic, and that morning he went there before he went home and changed his clothes. You see him in there. I don't know what the conversation was that he had in there, but on the camera, you see him talking to the people behind the plexiglass. I see him leaving there. I do know that he actually did have an appointment that was supposed to be in Champaign on that day. He never showed up for that appointment. And like I said, the only reason I know that all that stuff is because he was on my insurance. I was able to look and see that he had scheduled an appointment. Jelani went, from what I understand, or from what I have put together in my head, seeing him get in his car, go home, because he had to go home, because the next time Jelani was seen on camera, he had on some shorts and a T-shirt and a ball cap. He was no longer dressed up in his dress pants and his dress shirt anymore. Because when I filed the missing persons report, I had told them that was the last thing that he had on, because that's the last thing I knew for him to wear. That was the last thing we seen him on the camera with on campus. It wasn't until they figured out that he was at the dispensary that they knew that he had went home and changed his clothes. So when I went to Jelani's apartment prior to seeing the tape, or prior to them even telling me that he had changed his clothes, I never paid attention that Jelani's clothes that he had on the video was right there in the floor. I didn't pay attention to that. But after I seen him in the shorts and everything, when I went back to his apartment again, typical Jelani, he's just gonna take his clothes off and leave them in the middle of the floor like he always does. And I didn't pay attention to that. So that's why I get upset with myself. And I tell myself all the time, like, even that, I overlooked that. I overlooked things that I should have knew better and looked for with him. So
how beyond that, Carmen, at what point did people outside of the police, your family, get involved in this? Was it once his body was discovered, or while he was still missing?
Okay, so when he was initially still missing at first, I couldn't even get the local news to talk about Jelani. I was pleading for somebody to help us. And so I have a friend that worked for the public broadcasting at the U of I. She came to my house and she made videos of me talking about Jelani missing and pleading for help. Okay. She started circulating those videos along with us. And then the police, Paul Jones, he told me that that we couldn't, because by that, like I said, I got in touch with him that Thursday afternoon. He told me that I couldn't file Jelani as missing. I couldn't file a missing person report. It could be that Jelani was just not wanting to be found. And I was like, no, that's not Jelani. And he told me, he said, well, the only way we can file the missing persons report is that he has to be of harm to himself. I told him, if that's what you want me to say, then I will say that. Jelani was going to harm himself. If that's going to get you to file him as a missing person and for you to look for him, then that's what I will say, that he was going to harm himself. So yes, Jelani was going to harm himself. Now, can we file the report? It wasn't until after his car was located that they found him, that they did the whole poster with him missing and everything, okay? And then that's when the media started following, but it wasn't like, it wasn't national or anything. Nobody was picking it up. My kids kept pushing it on their pages on social media, on Instagram and everything. And then they found his body, or they found a body, because we didn't know if that was Jelani or not. And by this time, I was getting coverage, like some media stations in Bloomington and Champaign. And after the body was found, then BNC and CNN and then all of those started contacting me. But prior to that body being found, I wasn't getting a lot of coverage. Then when they found the body, they couldn't identify the body, because when the body was when this body that was found in the river was recovered from the river, they called us into the police department. So we were down there on September 4th when that body was found. I had been asking them to include the Illinois search and rescue, because by this time nobody has searched water, and this is going on 10 days that Jelani is missing. Nobody has searched water. The Peru police tell me that they had divers, that some divers went in somewhere. They didn't find anything. So I asked them, could they get the Illinois Search and Rescue involved. My daughter had been in contact with the Illinois Search and Rescue. They told us that they couldn't get involved until the police invited them. They had been contacting the police departments, and the police departments were not inviting them to help. So, I kept pleading with the public to call the police departments to tell them that this is what we needed. I thought them being bombarded with other people besides myself would help. Finally, they found Jelani's wallet in somebody's yard in Peru, and then his lanyard was found somewhere else. And they called me. I'm on the phone with Brad Jones, and he's telling me that this stuff was found. And he tells me, okay, give me just a moment. I'm getting a phone call. He calls me back and then tells me that Illinois Search and Rescue was going to be there. They were going to do another search. They were going to search the river, and that was going to be done on that coming up that Saturday. Because I think this was a Thursday when me and him was on the phone. It was going to be done on that Saturday on September 4th. And I asked him, I told him by this time I'm not asking anybody anything about my involvement. I told him that we would be there. That we would not interfere with their search, because he told me they were going to be set up at some high school in the parking lot. I told him, well, then I was going to have everybody meet again at the YMCA, and that we were going to go from that to the houses, because by this time I had learned that the police had not knocked on doors to see if anybody had seen anything, if their Ring cameras had recorded anything. They had not done any of this. And so I told him that's what I was going to have my people that met with me to help search for Jelani, that they were going to search there. So that morning we met in Peru, September the 4th. I divided people. They were going knocking on doors in the nearby neighborhoods. Then I get a call from my son after I done dispersed everybody, and Seve tells me, he said, "Mama, come here, they found a body." But they won't let me go down there, and they won't let me see. So I'm just incredibly now nervous. And I'm like, Seve, where are you? I'm trying to get to where he is. I called the detective. They confirmed that they found the body. I asked him, was it Jelani? He told me he couldn't tell me that, but he wanted me to meet them back at the police station. So we go to where my son is, and Seve's pointing to where their body is, but I really can't discern like where he's at, because it's far. Okay. And the police won't let us go down there. They're telling me we need to go back to the police station. So I don't even tell the other people that are out there searching that they found this body, because number one, they couldn't tell me that it was Jelani's. And I'm still in my mind believing that my son is alive and he's just waiting for me to find him. I tell my family, and we all gather at the police station. We get to the police station, and they finally come in there. They tell us that they found a body. They can't determine if it's a Hispanic or Black male. The body has been deteriorated, is deeply composed. It is missing. That's when the coroner told me it was missing eyeballs, missing fingertips. The genitals were flayed. No, he couldn't determine. He told me that it was a he couldn't determine the he couldn't determine whether it was a black or Hispanic. He didn't tell me about the genitals. The second autopsy told me about the genitals, but he did this. He described that it was infested with maggots and larvae. That fish and turtle activity had done all this destruction to the body. It didn't have fingertips, so they couldn't identify it, Jelani, by the fingerprints. And the dentals, it was missing teeth. So he couldn't do it, but the dentals is what he told me. He told us that we were going to have to do a DNA. They were going to have to take DNA from me, Jelani's dad, and one of his siblings, and that they would come. They would notify us, and they would come because this was a holiday weekend as well. I think it's Memorial Day, Labor Day, one of those in September. So they found this body. It's not identified as Jelani. They are telling us that, but by this time they found his wallet and his lanyard, and that coroner is standing up there, and he's implying that Jelani got out of his car, drove his car to Peru, parked it in this wooded area. Jelani was seen walking through the neighborhood where he tossed his wallet. He was described as a male in a red, it was either red shorts or a red shirt. And as I'm sitting there and I'm listening to him tell me all this stuff, and that I say to him, so you see this black male walking through these neighborhoods, whoever saw him, seen him walking through this neighborhood, throwing a wallet, and nobody calls the police? It's 1% black population in Peru, 1%. So that means they know who we are that live there. And you're telling me that you see this male that you don't even know walking through your neighborhoods, throwing a wallet, and you don't call nobody and you don't go to see who it is? Doesn't make sense at all. But he kept implying that Jelani did something to himself. And I was just angry. I was very angry. When they found the body, he didn't say that when they found the body. He just told me about the wallet being in the yard, but they was telling me that Jelani had threw the wallet in the yard because somebody described what looked like Jelani. We left there that day, and we went because that Monday they came and they swabbed my husband, Jelani's dad. They swabbed me, and they swabbed DeAndre. But then she told me that it was going to be at least 2 weeks before they could give me an answer, because they didn't have the chemical that they needed to process the DNA.
Are you serious?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Listen, I want you to continue on, because I think that it's important for people to hear these details fresh. You know, and just all like, I know there's more to talk about, but I want to bring in Natalie Wilson from the Black and Missing Foundation. She's a co-founder of the Black and Missing Foundation, and I know, I met you, Carmen, at their event recently. But Natalie has been standing by, so I just want to bring her in to just talk about, because I know you all know each other really well, and it just Natalie, you have been dealing with these cases, these types of situations with through the Black and Missing Foundation, you and your partner Derica, for years. And as I'm just dumbfounded as I sit and listen to Carmen tell me the details of what happened, and with the police, the way that they treated her and her family, it just baffles my mind. But you deal with this all the time. Is this unique with Black families that they, when a loved one goes missing in these types of situations where police treat you with this lack of urgency and really this lack of respect that I'm just amazed to hear Carmen describe here? Is this typical?
We are not surprised. And sadly, Jackie, we see this type of treatment to families and behavior pretty much every single day. We met Carmen in person. Carmen, it was earlier this year as we're working on a project. And just to hear her talk about what has happened to Jelani, I mean, it's heartbreaking. And that's why I wanted you to meet her and to help get her story out there, because the way law enforcement treats our missing and their families, we can no longer, deal with that, right? Because our families need to be treated with respect and dignity, and we need to know that they're doing a thorough investigation and there's transparency and accountability and a complete understanding as to what happened. When Carmen said that she couldn't file a missing persons report because Jelani was an adult. Okay, there's so many adults that go missing, and sadly we hear the same thing all the time, or law enforcement is saying you have to wait 24, 48, 72 hours. That is not the case.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, and so for you, Natalie, hearing these details, what is it that if what is it that you advise families to do in these types of situations? If a police officer is telling you, okay, you can't file a missing persons report. I mean, I applaud Carmen and her family for becoming full on detectives. I mean, they really put boots to the ground and did the work. It shouldn't have to be that way, but it is what it is. I think it's so important to just talk about what families should be doing in those first 24 to 48 hours.
Right. Well, first of all, and it's so important to file that missing persons report with law enforcement, right? But when you're running into roadblocks, what do you do? And utilizing media coverage is so vital. And that's one of our strategy. The media puts pressure on law enforcement to add resources to the case. And no police department wants to be embarrassed. One of the things that we do is have producers reach out to the detective or to the PIO, public information officer, asking for an update. And we see some traction, when that is done. But the families cannot give up. Carmen, DeAndre, her family deserves answers. We have a similar case with Terrence Woods, who went missing from Idaho. Same thing, right? And there's so many other Black and brown missing individuals that are running into that roadblock. And we're also here as an organization, we're advocates for these families. So we help them navigate through the process as well.
And Carmen, I just want to go back to pick up where we left off. They discover a body. They've conducted DNA swabs on you and Jelani's dad and siblings to see if there is a DNA match, right?
Right. Like I told you, they couldn't identify him by his dentals, is what they told me originally, because of the teeth that were missing. So they told me that our recourse was the DNA.
Right.
And again, weeks passed, even after the time frame that they gave me, that they could let me know if that body belonged to me. I keep in mind, the police were not contacting me. They were not updating me about anything. I was calling them. I was met with, what's the right word to use? I was met with no help. I was met with them being angry with me. The coroner, for instance, by this time, after they found the body, and I had Jelani's funeral, then that's when Reverend Jackson got involved. And that's when, they didn't like that this prominent figure was coming in and he's bringing attention. He brought it, we had the march in Peru. We had a march in Bloomington at ISU. Reverend Jackson was now getting out and he was speaking about Jelani. I'm getting on the news, CNN and different ones. Now I'm talking about the lack of help and the lack of assistance that I'm still not yet receiving. And I still don't have answers if that body is Jelani's or not. The day before I was even told to come there to be told if that body belonged to me, the coroner, first of all, the police from Peru called me. They sent me pictures of Jelani's clothing. Well, pictures of some clothing that at the time I didn't know it was Jelani's. Like I said, I hadn't even heard from them in weeks. So they sent me these pictures and they asked me, does this belong to your son? Is what they asked me. I look at the pictures and I'm at home by myself. I look at the pictures and I tell them no. It was a picture of a pair of shorts. It was a picture of a pair of shoes and some socks. I told them no. I called them and we're on the phone and they said, okay, well, if this doesn't belong to Jelani, we're going to throw it away. I was like, you going to take my word? He said, but you're telling us that these are not Jelani's clothes. I said, well, I don't even know. I said, let me call my kids. So I send the pictures to my kids. And then Dakara texts me and she says, Mama, those are Jelani's shoes. I bought those for him. It was a pair of Nikes. Save and DeAndre, they all tell me that those clothes belong to Jelani. So I call the police back and I let them know my kids said that those clothing do belong to their brother. Those are Jelani's clothing. And he told me that he's glad because they were not going to keep them. That was not going to be a part of evidence. They were going to discard them. That again made no sense to me. I get off the phone with them. I get a call from the coroner. Now, keep in mind, I've been on the news. I've told them how these people have not been talking to me. They're not giving me answers. They're not giving me updates. The coroner is on the phone with me, and he was rude as everything. But at this time, he doesn't know that the lawyer that I had at that time, she was on the phone with me, and also the private investigator that I had hired had been on the phone with me. So I add them to the call to let them hear him speaking to me. And what he told me was, do you want to know if this is your son or not? You will show up here if you want to know if this is your son. The private investigator and the lawyer, they jump in the conversation. She said, why are you talking to her like that? So he still thought it was me talking or somebody from my family that was asking him this question. And he was still getting smart. He was still telling me that I was rude in how I talked to him. And then she identified herself. When I tell you his whole disposition and tone changed in that conversation, it absolutely did. The investigator asked him, is this the way that you speak to a mother when you're asking her to come and identify her child? And he was like, he apologized to them, never apologized to me. Apologize to them, but then let them know that that his and our communication had not always been the best, which is what he tried to justify his way of speaking to me. The next day, we showed up in Peru at 9 that morning, and that coroner got up there and read that body was 99.9%. The DNA's matched. He then stated that the dentals matched. He then told us that this decomposed body that was found, there was 2 girls that had found the clothing that belonged to Jelani. The clothing was found a mile up the river from where the body was found. So keep in mind, the body had been found 19 days ago. But these girls found that clothing. So the body was found on September the 4th. They found the clothing on September 21st, a mile away from Jelani. Keep in mind that the clothing that they found was both the shoes, both the socks, and his shorts. Now, in my mind, this body that is in the river, he's undressed himself, or whoever. According to them, Jelani undressed himself, right? Why is the clothing still in the bank of the river when they already was telling me that the river had risen and it had fallen? I mean, it went down. So that clothing would have floated away. It wouldn't have been all together. But on the 21st of September, these girls, these are the words that the police used in that room that day. Two bored white girls from ISU came from Bloomington, Illinois. They drove 63 miles away to walk their dog because they saw me on the news and they wanted to help Jelani and wanted to help me find Jelani. So they went to these different areas where they said that where they knew that the body was found, and they were trying to find clues. In doing so, they went down and they found this clothing. When they first found the clothing, they said that they put the clothing back, but then they got in their car and they were leaving, and the girl looked at a picture of Jelani at the dispensary and said that that's the same clothes that he had on. So then they went back and they called the police. They told the police where they were at. The police went to a different area. The police didn't come, so they were going to leave again, and then the police did find them. The police never took them to the police department to question them. They took statements right there outside. These girls lawyered up. So on the day that they identified Jelani's body to me, which was the 23rd, the girls found the clothing on the 21st. I got the call on the 22nd that they had the clothing. By the 23rd, these girls had lawyers. When I asked the police, why do they have a lawyer? When all we want to do, I can't even thank them because they said they wanted to help me. I can't even thank them for finding the clothing.
And
they
you
had
never
lawyers.
Spoke to them?
In 2024, I found those girls and I did speak to them.
What?
I
Keep
went
talking.
to them.
I'm just gonna get my charger because my computer's about to die. But keep going. I'm just right here.
Okay.
Sorry.
So
Wait till
they were those girls.
To share with her how you.
What'd you say, Natalie?
Share with her how you found those girls.
So I have a friend that is a teacher in Bloomington, Illinois. And she called me and she says, Carmen, she was out somewhere one evening. And she said there was this young boy. He came up to her and he was looking for a ride. And she says that when she was talking to him, she don't normally put people in her car or whatever. She's like, and he was a little intoxicated. And she was like, but where they were at, there was not a lot of us. So she said she didn't want to leave him there. He was a younger boy. So she was talking to him and she said that she would give him a ride. So when they were in the car together, she said, Carmen, he didn't seem like he was somebody that would hurt me or nothing. He was the more I talked to him, he seemed okay. So I wouldn't mind giving him a ride. So she said, as they were in the car, she was asking him where he was from. And he was telling her. And then she said that she mentioned to him that she was from Danville. He said, Danville, ain't that where, that's where the boy that was missing, that's where he's from. And she was like, yeah. She was telling him that she was friends with me and everything. So he tells her, oh, my girlfriend is the one that found his clothes. She called me and she's like, tomorrow I'm going to be on the news. Tomorrow you're going to find out, and you're going to find out that I know something about him, and I'm going to be famous. So Tish keeps listening to him. She keeps talking to him, and she asked him for his information, for like contact. As she started befriending him more, she ends up getting his phone number, and she ends up continuing to getting him to talk to her. He tells her how one of the girls whom he was dating, how she had came to work and she was talking about that she knew something about Jelani. Then the next thing he knows is that she tells him about some clothes. But this all happened on different days, right? So initially when Tish called me, I did not reach out to the young man because it was I was in a bad space. I had told my kids about this boy, and I was like, I'm going to reach out to him. But it took me a couple months to reach out to him because I kept putting it off. Okay, I was already doing a lot, and so when I did finally reach out to him, I asked him, could I take him out to lunch? I told him I would drive to Bloomington and I would meet him. And I did. I drove to Bloomington. I took him to lunch. He was explaining to me about his relationship with this young lady. And he told me again the story that she told him. And I asked him, he gave me her name. He gave me her name and her friend's name. He gave me both of their names. And then I asked him, did he have a phone number for them? He said the girl wasn't talking to him anymore. I believe her name was Jessica, because there's a Jessica and a Jennifer. That's their names. And I can't remember which one he was dating, but he was dating one of them. But he told me that one of them, where she worked at. He told me where she worked at. And he told me that she had to work that day when I was there. So I got done with him. I paid for the lunch and everything. And I went to this restaurant. And in the restaurant, she wasn't there when I got there. Her boss was there. And I told her boss who I was. And I told her boss why I wanted to speak with her. Her boss called her on the phone. He told her who I was. And then he told her that I would like to speak with her. He gave me a phone number for her. I called her. And when I called her, she told me that she wasn't going to work that day. And I asked her if I could meet her to come and see her and talk to her. And she told me I could. So I was by myself, and I know this is crazy, but I did. I went to her house. She lived in this trailer park. I went there by myself. My mom was so mad at me after I did this. But again, I need to find out what happened to my son. And this is by any means necessary. And I would do the same. I would do the same thing today if I had to. I would go again. I went to her house, and she tells me, I sit down with her. And she tells me that she had been trying to contact me through Facebook, I believe. And she said I never reached back out to her. And I asked her how, and she showed me the message. So what I end up finding out is that if she wasn't a friend of mine on there, I couldn't see it. It's like in another location. I had to go and look at those messages. She had reached out to me telling me that she wanted to talk to me about something. I don't believe I would have to find the message to actually tell you verbatim what she says. But she told me that they went there to walk the dog, and that when they got there, they went to some area where they said that Jelani, that the police said that they found the body. And they talked to a gentleman, and this man tells them that he was a part of the search on that day, and that the police didn't search up there. And I'm thinking to myself, how does he know where the police searched? And he says that he was there. And so wherever there was, he pointed and told them. And he was she told me that he was a volunteer firefighter. She did not have his name, but he could tell her things what the police didn't do. So she said as her and her friend went searching, they went behind somewhere, and then they went down to where they found the clothing. And she told me that they found the clothing and it was on the bank of the river. And I said, they was just laying there? She's like, yeah, it was just laying there. Now keep in mind, this is the Nike tennis shoes. I would have to find a picture of it. But this one's with the heavy sole, okay? They don't have anything inside them to keep them from floating. They would either like sink to the bottom of the river or float away. But she said they were on the riverbank. She said that they were wet, and that she said that they were wet. I asked her, was there cockleburrs on there? Because from the pictures that I saw, I didn't see any cockleburrs or anything indicating like this had been in the weeds or anything on there. And she said she couldn't remember, but she remembered the clothing being wet. She said that they found the clothes. Then when they put the clothes, they didn't think of them because they found a telephone. They found, I know she found some clothes. She found a telephone, and they found some other things.
These girls found the
The
telephone?
girls, they found a telephone.
Oh, okay. Not his phone.
But but not Jelani's phone. At the time when they found the phone, they didn't know that it wasn't Jelani's phone or not. Okay.
Okay.
So she said they found a telephone. They found, if I'm not mistaken, it was a Hello Kitty, something that had to do with a Hello Kitty. I can't remember what it was. And the clothing. They left the stuff there. She said, but then they got in the car, they was driving away, and then they looked at a picture of Jelani, and they was like, oh, that's the stuff that we just found. So they go back, and they call the police. And they call the police, and then the police, like I said, the police eventually come, because the police went past them. They didn't even come to where they were at initially. The police drove past them, came back. Then the police, she said they never took them anywhere. They just asked them. It wasn't a lot of questions, she told me. They took statements, and they let them go. So now this is just one of the girls. So I wanted to speak to the other girl. I asked her, so why did you get a lawyer? I asked her, why did she get a lawyer? She told me that that it wasn't her that got the lawyer, it was the other girl that got the lawyer. Her family got the lawyer because they could not. They had seen me on the news and they didn't want to be accused of anything, so they ended up getting lawyers. And I asked her, could I speak to the other girl? She called the other girl, and then I made an arrangement to meet both of them together. And I took both of them to lunch, and then both of them took me back to Peru and showed me what they did and where they went. And then after seeing what they did and where they went, I was even more confused because none of it made sense. Where they went and where the clothing was found, where the body was found, it appeared to me that they knew more. I asked them, would they speak publicly about it? And both of them refused to. And initially they said that they would. And then the next day they told me that they would not. They did not want people attacking them. They did not want to be accused of anything. And I told them I wasn't accusing them of anything. But if they didn't have anything to hide, why not speak publicly about it? Because according to the police, you guys didn't want to talk to me because I had harassed you. And this is the first time I've ever met any of you or even spoken to you. And they told me that they never told the police that. But that is the story that the police told me. And that's the story that the task force told me about these young girls. When I asked the task force to go back and talk to them, the task force said they could not find them or locate them, but I was able to find them and locate them. So none of it made sense.
And I appreciate, and if at any time this is, because this is, you're reliving this, and I know it's difficult to retell this, but Carmen, I think it's so important to give you the time to really share these details in this way, because you just like you found those girls, you just never know who's going to come back and look at this and say, hey, I know something, or you just never know. So Natalie had to jump off to do another interview, and she's going to try to come back. So no, you take your time. Like I want this I want you to breathe with this. I want you to tell these details, but in a way that is not upsetting to you, because I know, I must imagine, Carmen, at some point, you had to, with the investigating that you were doing, even after the body was found, I think that to this day, you are still investigating and looking for answers and wanting answers about what happened to your son. At what did the police, Carmen, determine that was the cause of death? Did they ever make an official determination on what caused the death?
So, according to the police, Jelani drowned. However, they couldn't say that. The only reason that they say that he drowned, they didn't find they didn't find water in his lungs. But because his body was found in a body of water, it constitutes a drowning, according to them.
In what world? If there's like, you have to determine that someone, I know you know, I'm just saying this out loud, Carmen, I know you know this. You have to determine that someone drowned. People can throw a body into a body of water, and if it doesn't take on water, that means that that person was deceased when the body, like, you know what I mean?
The what do they call it? The report from when they did the autopsy on his body, it states in there, no water found in his lungs, but they determined it to be a drowning because the body was found in a body of water. And that never made sense to me. And still to this day, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that makes absolutely no sense to me either.
So they have they say that's the cause, but there's no manner of death. So I wouldn't do anything. They kept telling me, well, don't you want the death certificate so you can get the insurance? I told them, I don't care about this insurance money. I don't care. I don't even care about the death.
You never accepted their cause of death officially? You never accepted the death certificate, or did you eventually do that?
So they finally filed a death certificate last year because they told me there was a what's it called? After so long, they have to file it. So they said they had to. The manner of death is still blank, is what they tell me. But the cause of death, they have drowning on there.
So with all of this, and you're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of all of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you see what happened, well, let me ask you this first, because to me, it seems like you have a case to challenge the work of this police department, the investigators. Did you ever think about that, of taking legal action against them for how they handled everything?
I actually want to, but like I've told others, I don't want to jump the gun and file anything, and then a judge throws it out, and then I don't have the opportunity to do it again. Plus, also, I want to make sure that I have a very competent attorney that is going to take this and do the right thing, so that the police are held accountable, the university is held accountable, and whoever did this is held accountable. Because I don't want to be the one that messed something up and then it's my fault that I can't hold these people accountable for that. Because I do feel like there's a lot of things the police did not do, and they've acknowledged it. That day when they told me that that was Jelani's body and that was Jelani, the police chief from Peru came to me because I lost it in there. I told them how inept they were. I told them how they were just trying to pass my son off. And they know that he didn't do anything to himself. And I'm sorry, Jackie, give me just 1 minute.
It's okay. I've got a storm coming in anyway. And so it's like, it's crazy here. But I do want to say to those of you watching, you know, that I know this is a lot to take in, a lot of details, but a lot of people in this situation don't get the opportunity to really tell these details. And if you're listening to these details, y'all forgive my dog, like I am. I just have there's so many red flags and I have so many questions. And so the hope here is to help this mother find closure, to help her find the right attorney, right, and the right support so she can get the closure that she needs with this story. I was just talking to the audience and saying, you know, what would be, you know, to me, to for the right attorney to hear this and say, let me help this mother, you know what I mean, get the closure she deserves.
So yeah, I want to do all that. I want to make sure that I do everything decent and in order. Because once again, this is about accountability. This is about us getting answers. My goal is never getting answers. I'm sorry. I just want whoever did this to Jelani, I want to know why. I want to know, what did he do to you that you had to take his life and that you had to do it in this way? I really want to know that. I want them to know because Jackie, I firmly believe and I know that whoever did this, they're watching me all the time. They're seeing everything that I've been doing. They're seeing everything I've been going through. They're watching me. I'm praying that God pricks their heart. I'm praying that somebody who's seen something or knows something that comes forward and they tell something, because I'm trusting that I will not leave this earth without knowing what happened to him. You know, they told me about that body was my baby, and then I had to call the funeral home for them to come and get him. And before I buried Jelani, I had to ship his body to Chicago because he had to. My kids, I sat there, and I remember they saying, "Mama, we got to have another autopsy. That's not Jelani. That's not Jelani." And I remember telling Tim Leak, who is the funeral home owner, that we needed to do another autopsy. So we had to send Jelani's body to Chicago. And this man,
what did they
James.
find with that second autopsy? Did they find anything different?
So it was what they call it's something to look. It's not a no look. I told you I was going to find that term, and I did. None of them forgot. Okay. But he when he got Jelani's body, he said Jelani's body had been so mutilated, is the word that he used, that he couldn't do any more cutting on him because it was like he was just falling apart. It was already decomposing really fast from being in the water and then out in the elements or whatever. And he asked me, he said, "How do you know that this is your son?" And I said, "Because that's what the police told me." And he said, The only reason I know this is your son is because of the toe tag that's on the bag. He said, this body doesn't have, he said, where's his organs? And I said, I don't know. I said, they tell me that they checked his lungs, so I'm thinking that his organs are there. He said, if this is what's in these bags, this is nothing but mush. He said that his spleen was missing, his brain was missing, he didn't have his eyeballs. He talked about he didn't have fingertips, his genitals had been flayed. He was missing his femur bone. But from what I understand with that is that they had to take his femur bone out because that's how they had to do the DNA stuff. So
well, that's
I'm
what I was
thinking
going
that's
to
what,
ask. With these things that the second examiner was saying were missing, was there anything that this person could attribute to the first autopsy or to the decomposition or what happens, when he is in the water for that long?
well, he said that he had done this for a very long time, and that he said if they did an autopsy prior to whatever he was doing, that they had mutilated. He said if this is what they did, they mutilated the body, unless this is how the body was found. He also told me that he had not seen a body in that shape before, and he had done thousands of autopsies. So he didn't tell me if he contributed that to the first, but I can tell you that I know that because they told me that they were taking Jelani's bone from his leg to use to process the DNA. And when I asked them what they did with his bone, they said it was back in the bag, but I don't know because, like I told you, I never looked at Jelani. To this day, I regret not looking at him, but I still haven't brought myself to looking at the photos of him either. So,
Do you think you need to? Do you think that is part of your closure, or would you just like to remember him as you remember him?
well, Reverend Jackson used to tell me he is like, he described Jelani's case as a modern day Emmett Till.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to tell me that I was as strong as Miss Mamie Till. And I told Reverend, I was like, that lady was strong because I read about her and I seen, different movies about her. And that lady was extremely strong. I don't even think I have that kind of strength And I remember watching how she said how she had to show her son and how she wanted the world to see how they did him.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it brought her closure, but for it to help her in her search for justice or to get justice, right? I feel like that in my case with Jelani, because I look at pictures of him all the time, and I remember what he looked like, but I do often think about what he looked like before he left me,
Mm-hmm.
before I put him in the ground. If that, I don't know if that I know that seeing him like that, it will not bring me closure. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I haven't looked at him, because I don't want to remember him like that right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't want to.
I understand that. Well, when you look at this case that's dominating the news in so many ways, now that people on social media have spoken out about Nolan Wells and it really pulled the media back into it, what And have you been able to even pay attention to that story, or is it too close to home for you to pay attention to what's going on with Nolan Wells?
I haven't paid a lot of attention to Nolan Wells. Ever since I saw his mom on Good Morning America, it took me back to that place, because seeing her stand there and having to talk to people, talk to the press, talk to the public, compose herself and articulate the way that she was. And like she said, she just want answers. She just want help. And then as I get on social media, and just the other day, I seen where somebody was saying that if that was them, there's no way that they could be on TV. And it angers me, because people, they don't understand that when you don't know what happened to your child, you want all the help that you can get. And if talking on television or talking to the public is what's going to get you that help, you're going to do that. It's not like we're getting up here for fun and games because we want y'all to see us and we think it's fun to be in front of a camera. Because and they talk about the money that's been donated to her, I guarantee you, if she could give back every red penny just to have her son, she would do it. She wouldn't want to meet not one person, not a Tyler Perry, not a Ben Crump, not nobody. She would want her child. So it angers me and it hurts me that people say these things, because they looked at me and they said those things about me. I've had people troll me and talk about, they say, they create these things about whatever they think about me, or saying that I need to come to face the fact that Jelani killed himself. And people can be so insensitive. They can be so insensitive. So when I sat there and I watched her, it really hurt me. I cried for her. I cried with her, because I understand. And then when I see her post, this is torture. And then not only are you dealing with, she hasn't even buried her son yet. She hasn't even buried him yet. But yet and still, she has to defend him against people that don't even freaking know him. And he ain't even here. And she got to do all that. She can't even grieve properly. She can't even grieve properly. People do not know what that feels like.
People judge everything you do in these.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And it's horrible. It is absolutely horrible.
She may never know, right, what happened to her son, like what led to his death. What advice, and maybe she will find out, if you could talk to her, what advice would you give her on how to navigate all of this? Dealing with investigators, dealing with the media, managing her wellness, right? What advice would you give to her if you could just sit and talk with her?
Knowing what I know now, I would tell her, as she navigates, to make sure that, because her thoughts and your mind and your body are not even connected anymore right now. Like, this is totally different for us. So I would tell her to have someone with her that has a clearer mind than her. Because in those moments, even though we appear to have it all together and we can respond to you, sometimes, there are times when I don't even know how to articulate this. I can just tell you that sometimes I don't even know how to continue to navigate. I'm still trying to learn how to navigate through this. All I can just do is tell her that just be patient with herself. Just be patient with herself. Give herself grace. And if she has to block out people and block out the world, I don't care who it is. Block them out. Because they won't understand this walk that she's going through right now. They just won't. and they might not come from a bad place, because when your people that love you see that you're suffering, they're always trying to say something or encourage you to do something to be better, right? Not knowing that sometimes those exact words that they're saying to try and encourage you to be better are the same words that are hurting you even more. So it's still times when, like I said, I'm still learning how to navigate through this. I thank God for my children. I do. I thank God for them, because when I can't do nothing, they are there and they protect me. They help me. I wish there was a lot of things that I could do different, but this experience, one that I never asked for, has caused me not to be the same Carmen that I used to be. I don't even respond or react or move. Things that I know that I would never have put up before this with Jelani, I have tolerated so much, and it's not been good. You know,
Well, I know you
this
have.
sucks,
Oh, go ahead.
Jackie.
Please continue. Go ahead. Go ahead, Carmen.
I was just saying it sucks.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. And I
I
will
just hope
apologize.
that
You just hope what? Go ahead.
I just hope that she can give her. She needs to take every second, 1 second at a time. She's not going to be herself. The mother the Christine she was before July 4th, she'll never be that Christine again. They took a part of her away from her. So she'll never be that Christine again. And she cannot allow people to put that on her. She has to accept her space now, and so do they. And I just want her to make sure that she takes care of herself. No matter what that looks like, she has to take care of herself.
I want to wind down a little bit by talking about how people can help you and your family. I know you have a foundation in Jelani's name. There's a website that people can go to learn more, but you have a big fundraiser coming up, a big event that you do annually to remember him is the big focus of this foundation, but also to help others. You have big plans for what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about the foundation and the work that you're doing there.
So the foundation was birthed from my pain. I believe that there's purpose in this, because I don't believe that Jelani's death should be in vain. Jelani was going to make a difference in this world, and I believe that in his absence, he still can. So I founded the Jelani Day Foundation, and the foundation is to help families not to have to endure or go through the things that me and my family have had to endure and go through when we lost Jelani, and as we continue to seek answers and justice for him. This would have been Jelani's 30th year of life. He turned 30 in June. And so I know that my son, the celebration would have been big, okay? He would have been like over the top, doing everything. Ain't no telling what country he would have been in. He would have been somewhere. Him and his friends and his siblings, he would have made it a big event. So in doing so, I want to do the same thing in honoring him this year. We usually do all white, because before Jelani, one of the last conversations we had that day, he wanted to have an all white party and he wanted me to sponsor it. And I told him no. And of course, when the time came and his birthday came, he wasn't here. And I was so devastated. So that's when I came about with the foundation, and I wanted it to be all white because that's the last thing that he asked me for. But this year we're going to do all black, because I know Jelani would have been doing something different for his 30th birthday. So black is significant of being classy and elegant and grown. So Jelani, he's grown now. So I want to remember him. I want his friends to be there celebrating this. And I usually don't use the word celebration in conjunction with the gala for Jelani, because nothing about this ever seems like a celebration. You know what I'm saying? It's always about making sure that his purpose is fulfilled and remembered and continued. And I am his voice now, and I have to push his purpose. So our the foundation is supposed to be one that is going to help the families. Whether, right now we've been able to give out scholarships in Jelani's name. We've given out 4 to 4 high school seniors that graduated from the same high school that Jelani attended. Our goal is to continue to do that with the colleges that he attended at Alabama A&M and Illinois State. We've also blessed families during the holidays, Christmas and Thanksgiving. We've done that for the last 3 years. We'll do it again this year, which will be our 4th year. Last year for Thanksgiving, we were able to bless 100 families in honor of Jelani. So that was something I was very proud of, because we started off with 2, we went to 3, and then last year we were able to do 100. So I was very, very proud that we were able to do that. Also, we want to find, once we continue to grow, there's going to be components in the foundation, this focus for the mothers, for mental health, for advocacy, for when this happens to a family, I want to be able to help them navigate, to get the media attention, to get the help from the media, to connect them with any kind of investigators or attorneys that will be able to assist them. I just want to be that outlet that can help you, because I didn't have that. And I know that when this happens to you, and nobody is exempt. So I was just fortunate enough that I didn't have to be out here begging and everything. But there's some families that are not as fortunate. And I want to make sure that if we can help with them any monetarily, I want to be able to be that source of help as well. So that is why we're holding this fundraising gala, is to build that for the foundation, to increase the funds, to continue to spread light on missing Black and brown males, and also to not forget Jelani. His case is still open. It's just inactive because they're saying that they have no leads, but I know that there's something out there that we've overlooked, that I've not paid attention to, that I'm going to pay attention to, and we're going to help find the answers about what happened to Jelani.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of people that will hear this interview and hear these details, I want to encourage everybody to take notes, share this, talk to people, because community is how we solve these things, right?
Right.
It's somebody knowing somebody, just like the girls who found the clothes. I mean, that's an amazing coincidence, right? That young man would get in the car with your friend, that would lead to that. And you were able to speak to at least one of those young ladies. Like, that is incredible. And so it is community that could help you find the answers that you and your family are looking for, the right attorney, right? The right investigators. Because I think about, I think it is a blessing, right? When certain celebrities with a certain amount of wealth come in and pay for funeral services and pay for this and for that. And it's in the moment. And I think, unfortunately, once all the bright lights and everything fades, so does that. And I'm not accusing anyone of being callous or anything like that. It's just, maybe they're not as leaned into it. And so that's why I really wanted to do this interview in this way, so that people could hear all these details. Because a lot of times in an interview, it's so quick, you don't really get to talk in great detail about a lot of what people need to hear and what could jog someone's memory, or someone can make a connection to something else, Carmen. So I appreciate you taking the time to go through this, and I know it's painful to relive this just so we could share these details with everybody.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate you for allowing me to be detailed like this and to take up this much of your time. I know we didn't plan for it to be this long, but
it's okay.
I appreciate it. I didn't even touch on the fact about his car or his phone that was later found, and I
Oh, well,
ended up
please
being the
share
one.
those additional details, though. What additional details, did, like, with the phone, with the car, were you able to
So
find
his
out?
phone was found. Jelani's phone was discovered in November of 2021. It was found on the side of a highway. Um, the guy that found it said that he had got out of his car. He had a mattress on the back of his car. He was trying to buckle it down, and he looked on the ground, and there was a phone. He picked it up and he took it to Walmart, and he put it in one of those kiosks, and he got $80 for it.
Mm.
So I had already reported Jelani's phone lost, stolen. The police had reported. So I guess when the people from that kiosk got the phone, Jelani's phone ended up in California. Um, they had the numbers from the phone. The police were notified. The police get the phone back. Keep in mind, they never notified me. I did not find out that they had found Jelani's phone. They had his phone for a whole week before I found out that they had it, and I found out on social media
Are you
because the
kidding
guy,
me?
the guy who found the phone, his boss made a post on social media saying, "My worker found the phone of the missing boy from Jelani Day," or something. It was something in regards to Jelani. I don't have the right verbiage or correct verbiage, but I have all the screenshots. He put it out there. I ended up putting a post out, wanting to contact him. Um, we got in touch with him. Social media is when there are some good sleuths out there that when you share information with them, they'll find anything for you.
Yeah.
They found this young man. They found intern. I spoke with him. I ended up speaking to the guy with the mattress. He tells me that the police had already interrogated him 4 days before I even spoke to him. They had his telephone. That he found Jelani's phone. He told me that he charged the phone up. He seen that it had power to it, so that's why he turned it in to the kiosk. He said the screen was cracked, so he turned it into the kiosk so he could get some money off of it. When the police got the phone back from California, Detective Paul Jones, when he finally did tell me after I confronted him, because I already found it out on social media again, that he said that when they got the phone, he plugged the phone in the charger, and when he turned the phone on, they knew that the phone worked because the alarm started going off. But the screen was cracked, so they could not open the phone. So they told me that they were trying to get the phone open so that they can look and see what Jelani's last activity was on the phone, because all we had was the phone records from Verizon and the information that whatever Apple could give us at the time, right? So they were taking so long for me that I was like, I kept trying to get the FBI involved. I wanted to meet with the FBI, and I wanted the FBI to become involved because, again, there have been so many things that the police had lacked in doing or didn't do or failed to do. Because, like I said, when I was telling you before, the day that they told me that body was Jelani's, the police chief from Peru came to me and she said, "Carmen, you're right. We failed you, and we're going to start over tomorrow as if it was day one. So on September 24th, you're going to start back over as if it was day one, where we done missed whole." He was last seen alive. I last talked to him on August 23rd. He was last seen alive on August 24th. So a whole month, we never got camera footage from the businesses surrounding the dispensary. They didn't do none of that, but they wanted to start over a whole month later as if it was day one, and that was supposed to be acceptable to me. So I needed the FBI to come in and be involved, and I wanted the Attorney General to do his job and get some different eyes on this. I needed the governor to look at this. I needed somebody to help me, and in doing so, my quest to do all of this has been met with nothing but opposition from everybody. The part of when I kept asking for the FBI, there was at the time one of the accused was the director of the FBI out of Chicago. He could never speak to me, I guess because of his job, and then he retired, so I didn't get any help. The police wanted me. I called when the police got involved when I was requesting for the state police to become involved. They had me meet with people from the FBI. Come to find out, this was the people from the behavioral analysis unit. They came and sat down with me and my family. They wanted to question us because they needed to see how we thought. And then they were looking at trying to analyze the thoughts that they thought Jelani would have. There was nothing that they were doing to investigate the case. This was all trying to investigate the type of person Jelani was and how he thought, and to see where we were and what we were thinking. That's what behavioral analysts do. That's the only component of the FBI I've ever had connection with or talked to or spoken to. The Attorney General, I've had all kind of campaigns to speak to him. That man told me, his name is Kwame Raoul, he told me to research him and then come back and talk to him. So I did just that. Then it wasn't until last year that he finally had a meeting with me, because I had to stalk. I'm going to use the word stalking loosely, but I had to show up at he's on the road campaigning. I had to show up at different meetings in order for him to even talk to me, because every email I sent him, every message I sent him, every call I made to him was unanswered. He only agreed to speak with me because I stood in front of the media and I told him that I wanted to speak to him, that I needed his help, that he told me what he would do and he hadn't done it. And then when he did oblige me with a meeting, he gaslit me. And he told me that I didn't understand his job. After I told him I researched him and seen what the parameters of what he could do, he told me still that he couldn't do that. But then he told me that he assigned an investigator to me. If he can't do what he's saying, how do you assign an investigator to me? So what he said didn't make sense. His investigator then told me that he was going to go back, contact the police department, see where they were at, to advise me how we could proceed and what they could do. This was last year before my last gala. He never did what he told me he was going to do. Come to find out, when I did reach out again to try to connect with him, he had left the Attorney General's office, so he's no longer working there. So through this process, people have left positions, been promoted somewhere else, moved. And it's like I'm fighting a losing battle because, like you said, in the beginning, people are there. They're concerned and they're showing that they want to help. And then as the days go on and it wanes, like I told you, people go on with their everyday life. This is my everyday. That will be Christine's everyday. Like I said this the other day when I was talking to Jesse Jackson Jr. on his show. When everything fades and the attention, the media and stuff go away, we still need you all. I thank God that when this was going on with Jelani, like you mentioned, the ones that come in and pay for things, like Offset paid for Jelani's funeral. Never met Offset in my life, but come to find out his mom is a Delta and it was something that she wanted to do. And so she, with his foundation, they paid for Jelani's funeral. People made donations to a GoFundMe for us to help pay for the private investigator and other things that we needed to pay for, the autopsies and things of that nature that when we didn't have to pay for, that was even gifted to us. But again, when it's died down, here I am 5 years later, almost 5 years, and some of those same people that I've asked that told me, what do you need me to help you with? If you need me to help you, I'll be there. It's crickets. And so we still need you because we still don't have those answers. And we still need that influence. We still need that assistance. We still need that presence because it's hard fighting for this justice. And I'm just this one person. Not that I don't have my family behind me, but when it's just me, you feel alone. You feel alone. You feel helpless. I feel helpless. I don't want to fight. I don't even sometimes want to do this. But then if I don't do it, I feel like I failed him. And I've never failed my kids. Not one of them. I've always been there for them no matter what. And how can I not be there this time for Jelani? I cannot not be there. So I have to keep fighting no matter what, no matter who gets tired, no matter where nobody goes. Because I just feel like, and you do, if I'm just honest and transparent with you, I feel like, even your family, everybody goes on with their lives. My life changed. And sometimes they don't understand that. And so it's hard. It's hard. So again, when you ask me, what would I advise Christine or say to her? Like I said, just take 1 second at a time because that's all you can do.
Seems like there's no playbook. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no one way to do this because it's your relationship with your child. It's your child. It's not, her child is not your child. And so what she would do is not what you would do. So I get the, you know what I mean? It's hard to give someone advice when you think about it that way. But I didn't think about that when I asked the question. But as you started the answer, that came to mind. Would it take, like, if you had endless amount of money to go towards dealing with what you need to deal with to close this case, what would you do with that? I mean, is money is money a factor here for you?
Yes, money is a factor because money is a factor because if I have money, then I think I can pay for some of the best investigators to go in and do whatever needs to be done. You know how you see these movies on TV and what the police didn't do, you got somebody in there that's coming in and not only are they finding out who did it, but they taking care of them at the same time too.
Right.
Listen, I money is a factor. I mean, it takes those things to make things happen. Like I said, I don't have it. And then we're raising money for the foundation, but the foundation is not the investigation. So it's like I'm dealing with the investigation and I'm dealing with the foundation. But at the same time, it's all about Jelani. So to me, it's both one and the same.
Yeah.
But I have to look at them as two different things.
Yeah.
And it's just hard. It's hard.
Yeah. I can't even imagine, Carmen, what you've been through, but I just want to, do what I can to help keep your story in the news and keep people talking about it. Now I think because of, and we talked about this, the the nuances, things that are similar. I mean, the cases between Jelani's and Nolan's are vastly different, but there are a lot of similarities. And so I feel like because people are leaning into that, it's a good time to remind them, hey, this mother never got the closure that she needed, and she still needs our support, our attention. She needs this story, elevated so that people can remember it and lean into it, because I believe the answers are out there, and I know you do too. And it's just a matter of the right person saying the right thing at the right time for it all to come together. But
yeah, the police said they have 500 hours worth of video, right? And I kept asking them, have you looked at the video? Have you looked at the video? And this is like a year after she told me, well, somebody was going to be, what do you call that? They had got injured at work. So they was on, I can't even think of the word, but they were going to be sitting down at the desk. They were going to get this person to review the videos, right? So I had told her, I said, do you need me to come down there and I can sit down and review the videos? Then when they finally did, 2 years later, there was nothing on the videos. Like I told you about the phone, Jelani's phone, they had his phone for a whole year and a half. Then finally one day, I got up the nerve to watch a video of him on campus at ISU. And as I'm watching this video, Jackie, I see Jelani on his phone and he is pushing in his code. And you know how you're looking at a phone, you can tell like what the numbers is that somebody's touching or what they're doing. And I rewinded and I'm like, oh my God, Jelani's pushing in his code. So I called the task force and I'm like, okay, did you guys look at the video of Jelani walking across the campus? And they told me, are you talking about the video where he's punching in the code? Seeing this? Yeah, that video. I said, I can't enlarge because I had tried. The day that I saw this, I sent it to my kids. Excuse me. And so we were trying to enlarge it and slow it down. I was trying to buy stuff online to try to slow the video down, and nothing was working, right? So I called the task force. I'm telling them, and the response they gave me was this. Carmen, yes, we know about that video. I said, so you know about the video and you ain't tried? That's him punching in his code. I said, you guys have the capabilities of slowing it down, enlarging it to see exactly what he's pushing in. But Carmen, you wanted us to send the phone to the FBI, so we stopped. That's what they told me, Jackie. And I said, oh, so y'all work for me now? They said, do you want us to get the phone back from the FBI? So, Jackie, what I did, keep in mind they didn't have my child's phone for over a year and a half. Guess who figured out his code in a matter of 10 days?
You did.
Absolutely.
Wow.
In a matter of 10 days. So when they got the right code, because at first we were sending them codes and everything we sent them wasn't working. And so me and Save and Dakar and Zayna and DeAndre, we just kept looking at the video and trying to figure it out. Sending in different numbers. And finally we sent in the right one. And he called me, he said, Carmen, we got the correct code. We couldn't keep trying because if we kept trying, it was going to lock us out or whatever. So they got the right code and they told me they were going to set it on the machine and get all the information off the phone. Okay. So I'm waiting. So I unlocked his phone in April. By the end of May, they still ain't telling me nothing about what was found on the phone, if there was anything on the phone. I go to a speaking event in Detroit at the end of May, and I call the detective or the lieutenant in Bloomington, and I'm asking him, is there any updates on Jelani's phone? He said, Carmen, there's nothing on the fucking phone.
What?
I said, well, if there's nothing on the fucking phone, give me the fucking phone. And he hung up on me. I did not get Jelani's phone until late that year. I want to say it was like in November. I got his phone because they explained to me that they were going to have to. What they made me think is that they had repaired his phone, repaired the screen, and that's how they unlocked the phone. Well, when I sat down with them, I went to Bloomington to the police station because I wanted his phone. And I sat with them and I told them, can I have the phone? And they told me they had to check with the attorney, the state's attorney, because it was a piece of evidence. Mm-hmm. Well, the state's attorney said that they had downloaded everything from the phone. So go ahead and physically give her the phone. So when they handed me the phone, the screen and everything was still cracked. So I'm like, well, how did you unlock the phone? Because I thought you repaired the phone. Because in my mind, that's what they did in order to get into the phone. Mm-hmm. And he told me that the guy, the lieutenant, Carmen, that's what I thought they did too. I said, so you never even looked at the phone? You never even went to see what was going on with the phone? And he had not. Then he told me that that I could take the phone. He said, well, I don't know what you're going to do with it because you can't look at it, but I'm sure we can give you a name of somebody that can get all the information off the phone. But that's what they were supposed to do. That's what he said that they did, right? Mm-hmm. So I took the phone and I went and I found a man. He's located in California. I needed him to. He told me that he could get all deleted information off the phone and anything, pictures and all that stuff, retrieve all that stuff off the phone. I had to pay $3,500 to do this on my own. I sent it down there. It took about 4 weeks or so for us to get it back.
Did he find anything?
Well, only thing that he recovered off of there were pictures. I got some text messages. I haven't seen anything in there that could alarm me. I didn't find everything that from the 24th forward was deleted from Jelani's phone. Everything from the 24th going forward was deleted. So from what I understand, I don't even know. I don't even know if this man really could do what he said he was doing. Like I said,
yeah.
I Googled this. I did this on my own. It's possible I don't even have. I paid for something that I just got what I got. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
this is, I hate that you were treated this way by these law enforcement people that are supposed to be there and support you, and to have grace with you throughout this process. But like I said, I wanted to give you an opportunity to really go into detail about this so that people can go back and watch this. I told you I'm going to put this, we're live now, but it'll be up on the YouTube channel for people to go back and really dissect, because I want you to get those resources that you need, as I was saying before, to really close this out. Carmen, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got your grandbaby there visiting with you, and I want you to, I just cannot even imagine, but just to have whatever peace that you can have on, if it's a moment, if it's a day, whenever you can. And I hope that people will come forward with information, with resources, and with the support that you and your family need, again, to get the closure that you need. But I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me here.
I appreciate you taking the time to have me on here to talk to you, Jackie. I really do. Like I said, I'll do anything to keep Jelani's name out there. He is not forgotten. I need the help. I'm learning how to be able to talk about all of this because I know if I need the answers, I have to relive this. And unfortunately, I have to talk about it as well. So I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'll be okay. It'll be fine. And one day I'll have the answers and then I don't have to talk about it like this anymore. But until then, this is what I have to do.
Okay. Well, Carmen, thank you so much for your time today. And I'm sure we'll keep talking and see.
We will.
We will. All right, Carmen. God bless you and your family and your gorgeous little grandbaby there.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. And thank you all for listening to this episode of Vetted with Jackie Reed. I know it was a long one, but I think it was necessary. It was intentional, right? To give a lot of loved ones in this situation really don't get the time because of time constraints to really tell everything that they need to tell, that could lead to answers that they need or support that they need, right? She talked about the money that really could come in and help her do a proper investigation and, get the right attorney to handle what I feel, not a legal expert, but to handle what I feel was mishandling of her son's investigation. I don't know that for a fact. That's just my 2 cents based on what she's telling me. But hopefully she will be able to one day soon, she and her family, get the closure that they need. But I appreciate you all. Please spread the word about this episode of Vet. It's our first show. There will be more to come, but I really want to hyper focus on this one, and let's lean in and do what we do as community and try to find some answers based on the details that were shared here today. Okay. I thank you all again for your time, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.